After 8 years working, I'm really overwhelmed. We had such a big success today. I hardly can't believe it yet. This result of the judgment is valid all over Europe. All the countries will have to do more, and I hope it will have a big effect.
Switzerland is currently not on track to meet its Paris Climate Change Accord targets, but neither are many other European countries, including Germany and the UK. They are among 46 countries to have ratified the European Convention on Human Rights. This ruling could affect them all. The climate change campaigner Greta Thunberg was in court to hear the verdict.
It cannot be a political choice whether to respect human rights or not. And this is only the beginning of climate litigation all over the world, because in a climate emergency, everything is at stake.
There can be no appeal against this verdict, and now Switzerland will have to show it is doing more to tackle climate change. But there was a furious and predictable reaction this afternoon from Switzerland's biggest political party, the right-wing Swiss People's Party. It condemned what it called interference by foreign judges and said Switzerland should leave the Council of Europe.
The ruling came as leading scientists warned that the Earth's climate could be entering uncharted territory. Another global average temperature record was broken last month, the 10th in a row. The European Union's climate service Copernicus in March was 1.7 Celsius warmer than the pre-industrial average. Our climate editor Justin Rowland looks at what the decision could mean for those trying to tackle this increasingly urgent problem.
Campaigners have long recognised that legal action could help the battle against global warming. And by linking human rights to climate change, today's ruling is groundbreaking and could inspire similar cases across Europe and further afield. There are already more than 2,500 lawsuits being brought against governments, fossil fuel firms, airlines and other polluting industries globally, according to researchers at Columbia University. And these legal actions do sometimes bring change. The UK government was forced to rewrite parts of its climate policy following a court case, for example. The oil company Shell was ordered to make dramatic emissions cuts by the Dutch courts, a decision it is challenging. The need for urgent action on climate was underscored today by the EU's climate change service Copernicus. The run of 10 consecutive monthly temperature records it recorded has got many climate scientists worried, says Dr. Samantha Burgess, the Deputy Director of Copernicus.
The reality is that we can quantify a large proportion of the extra heat that's causing these records, but not all of it. So there needs to be a lot more science, and there will be much more science coming out over the next weeks and months to try and understand what's happening to our climate system and are we in a new phase.
There is no debate about the underlying cause of this run of record temperatures, the huge quantities of planet-warming gases humanity has been pumping into the atmosphere. In recent months, the recurring El Niño weather event in the tropical Pacific has been delivering an extra blast of heat into the air. That is weakening now, so temperatures should begin to ease back. If they don't, and the very high sea temperatures worldwide suggest they might not, then some scientists fear it could signal the world is entering a new phase of more rapid climate change.
The Foreign Secretary Lord Cameron has confirmed that the UK will not suspend arms exports to Israel, despite the killing of 7 aid workers in an airstrike last week. Speaking on a visit to Washington, he said the decision had been made after reviewing the latest legal advice. He also declined to give any details about his meeting with Donald Trump in Florida. Our North America correspondent Gary O'Donoghue reports from Florida.
Ever since the killing of the 7 aid workers, 3 of them British, in the Israeli attack on the World Central Kitchen convoy, calls to reconsider military aid to Israel have grown louder in both London and Washington. The argument has been that Israel has been in breach of international human rights law for the way in which it has conducted the war in Gaza. But after spending the last month considering legal advice, the Foreign Secretary, Lord Cameron, announced there would be no change.
As required by the UK's robust arms export control regime, I have now reviewed the most recent advice about the situation in Gaza and Israel's conduct of their military campaign. The latest assessment leaves our position on export licences unchanged.
Lord Cameron said the British position remained in line with other international partners, but the situation would be kept under review. He said the government still had grave concerns over the humanitarian situation and wanted to see 500 trucks of aid per day going into Gaza. Lord Cameron declined to comment on a meeting he had with Donald Trump in Florida last night, merely describing it as a private conversation in which a number of international issues were discussed. The Foreign Secretary is planning to spend some time trying to persuade legislators on Capitol Hill to unlock funding for Ukraine, which is opposed by Donald Trump and a number of congressional Republicans.
Labour said Lord Cameron's response wasn't good enough and called on him to publish the legal advice the government had received on the arms sales. An RAF transport plane has taken part in the largest international airdrop of humanitarian aid to Gaza. A coalition of 9 nations using 14 aircraft took part in the operation to mark the end of Ramadan. Our diplomatic correspondent James Landale was the only journalist flying with the RAF and sent this report from over the skies of Gaza.
We're flying at 2,000 feet above Gaza, and beneath us is a scene of utter devastation. In the hold are 12 pallets of humanitarian aid, all boxed up and all ready to go to slide out the back. Inside the containers are flour, rice, sugar, oil, baby powder and water. Everything needed to keep people alive. But here's the thing. This is one of the RAF's biggest transport aircraft, and it's carrying about 10 tons of aid. And that's less than the amount one truck can carry across the border on the ground. So this is an expensive and inadequate way of delivering aid. The pallets were packed and loaded at an airbase in Jordan, part of the largest coalition airdrop since they began last month. 14 aircraft from 9 nations, including European and Arab countries and the United States, delivering more aid than usual to mark the end of Ramadan. Squadron leader Lucy Pale is in charge of the British side of the operation and said the cumulative impact was beginning to tell.
This is a sustained effort. We've been here for 3 weeks now, and we're continually delivering the aid. The people of Gaza are very grateful for the efforts that we're going to, and we'll keep delivering until we can't give them any more.
There are dangers. There is no organised way of distributing the aid, and people have been crushed trying to make their way to the pallets. International charities say the airdrops are an illusion designed to show something is being done. The aid provided, they say correctly, will not meet the needs on the ground. The air crews here in Jordan accept that, but say it's better than nothing and it is making a difference, not least while there is simply not enough aid getting through by road or sea.
The former post office branch manager Alan Bates has told the inquiry into the Horizon IT scandal that the company spent 23 years trying to silence and discredit him. Mr. Bates has led a campaign calling for compensation for more than 900 sub-postmasters wrongly convicted of fraud and theft because of the faulty accounting software. Our correspondent Satya Bag reports from the hearing in London.
In his single day of evidence, Alan Bates sped through 20 years of battling against the post office for himself and then hundreds of other postmasters. At the turn of the millennium, he ran a small post office in Llandudno. He quickly realised there were problems with the